Okie dokie. We'll leave. We are live. Just make sure we're all set up here, guys.
No, it's not letting me do it onto the Satori Prime page.
Okay. No big deal.
I'll do it to personal development.
All right. If you are just getting on here right now, we're getting settled in. Please feel free to drop a hello in the chat box and let us know where you are coming in from. If this is your first time with us too, we'd love to say a special hello to you also. I know we have a lot of repeating visitors coming on these things. Actually, let me turn on my light for you guys. Hey, Kimberly, welcome from Florida. Where in Florida are you? My mom's actually out here visiting me in San Diego from just north of Miami. And then Elon's trying to get something else set up over there for a social media feed, so he'll be with us in just a minute. Again, guys, I see Cape Canaveral, awesome. All right, guys, I see a bunch of you popping in here, so if you're just getting on, feel free to say hello to us. Let us know where you're from. Fatma, it's good to see you here also. And joining us yesterday as well, which is awesome. We're excited to have you in the collective, of course. We got Nick from Los Angeles, happily back. What's up, my brother? My brother from up north. And yeah, guys, we usually give it just a few minutes to let people pop on, get themselves settled in. Obviously, if you're here, then you're here for some coaching. This is something that we do on a bi-monthly and bi-weekly basis. I've now understood that those two things are the same thing. So that's less confusion in my life.
Are they? I don't think so.
I think so.
I don't think so. I think bi-monthly is every 2 months.
Google told me differently. It's very confusing. I don't really know which is which. I always thought it was bi-weekly, but then it's like, that sounds like it's twice a week. And then you say bi-monthly, at least it sounds like it's twice a month. But apparently it's the same thing.
I'm going to just check the audio. I'm going to turn off my microphone here for a second. I'm just going to check the feed on Facebook. Fair
enough. Cool. So, yep, if you're coming in to see you guys saying hello. Hello to Camelia from Bucharest. Good to see you as well. We definitely have been talking nonstop about Romania to everybody we see and keep telling them to head out there. Karen's here from Melbourne, Australia. What's going on? And guys, look, if you've been here before, if this is your first time, this really is a live coaching webinar. We have an invitation to make for you to join one of our programs at the end of this. And certainly the intention here is that you get a good taste of exactly how Elon and I work. We are not hard salespeople in the traditional way. Whether you join or not is really up to you. And what we really want more than anything as the intention is for you guys to come on here and actually get a taste of what it's like to be working with us. If at that time you feel called to take some kind of next step with us, we'll let you know exactly how to do that. That'll be probably about 2 to 3 minutes of this whole presentation. It'll be really quick, and we won't do the, but wait, it's more, and it's this price, and now it's this price thing. Like, none of that is going to happen here. This is really just about you guys. So if you don't know Elon and myself, and it's your first time here, just a little bit of background. Elon and I are brothers. We're also co-founders of Satori Prime. We've been owner-operators of our own organization for about 7.5 years. We were really well known in the internet marketing space for a long time. When Facebook was just budding, we were actually some of the premier Facebook marketers worldwide with our programs. And we really got online, though, to do what you guys are about to experience here, which is work with people like you on making the areas of life that are important to them the best they can possibly be. So our jobs, if you could call them that even, is really to work with people on making sure that they have kick-ass lives. It's a pretty good arrangement. And you know, we have people all over the world who started businesses and are doing amazingly well. People who've grown business to tremendous degrees. People who've suddenly lost a lot of weight, or all three of them, who are living in their juicy relationships, who are just in a much more ecstatic state, are finding themselves jovial and kind of in their childlike state again. And this is the kind of stuff that we talk to you guys about and actually give you not just things to think about, but practical things that you could be doing and experiencing that actually unlock doorways inside of yourself, doors that you probably were present to when you were little that over time you've just locked up. So we've gotten really good at that because for 16 years, Elon and I have been pursuing our own development for literally 16 years straight, nonstop. So if you think of that like a college education, we are now officially on our 4th degree just completed. And our speciality, well, somebody might tell you they're like a business coach or like this kind of coach or a life coach and all these terminologies that I think get a little bit muddled when they get overused. Elon and I are like, the best way I can explain this is we're like professional dancers. And you might be somebody who's been dancing for a little while, or you're just getting started and you need help in learning how to do this dance. So when we speak to you, it's like we're kind of like dancing in this conversation with you and exploring how you can start being the best dancer. So at first you're like counting the steps and thinking about what you're doing. Eventually what we do with our people and our students and our personal clients is we really just teach them how to become professional dancers also. Now here's the thing, nobody dances the same way. Everybody does the salsa a little bit differently. As you can tell, Elon and I even right now are just jigging just slightly different. And the whole case in point for this whole introduction is that you have two people here who legitimately care about the quality of your life, legitimately care about the quality of what's happening on our planet. And right now you have an opportunity to ask them any question about any area of life that you want. So I urge you to get in the chat box and be first, because we usually spend a bit of time on each one of you guys because it's relevant to everybody. And usually we can get to about 3, maybe 5 total questions here in great depth, okay? So because of that, you want to get in there as quickly as possible. If we can't get to your question and you still want it answered, by all means, you can find us offline after this and we'll help you with that as well. Just a little coaching around asking questions. Specificity is really crucially important. If you're just like, how do I live a happier life? That's super general. We're probably going to overstep that or ask you to get more specific. Talk about you, what's actually going on in your life, what's actually happening in that relationship, what's actually happening in that business, what does it feel like, what's going on, what are the conversations you have. The more specific you can get, the more specific we can get with the coaching. And I want to just put this in context. Our personal clients pay us between $3,000 to $10,000 a month to have these conversations with them. Okay, you guys are here for free, which is amazing. The caveat with doing things for free is people tend to not pay attention as much. So I'm just going to bring that into your awareness so that you can kind of bring yourself here and be as present as humanly possible. I'm also going to ask you for a quick favor while you guys are mulling over the questions, and whoever gets it in there will kind of just start moving in that direction. I'm going to ask you to just listen to this in a particular way that you may not normally listen. People think of listening as like a passive thing that they just do. That's just, they're just like getting things. Listening, listening can be very active. So listening oftentimes is predicated by what our opinions are. So if you think about like you have filters over your ears, these filters are your beliefs, your opinions about everything, the way that the world is for you. And because of that, a lot of times when we listen through that space, we're not actually hearing what people are saying. We're actually hearing what we're saying about what people are saying. So you might notice that when somebody's talking, you have a little voice in your head and it has opinions. And those opinions are, is this good? Is this bad? Do I agree? Do I disagree? Is this right? Is this wrong? And it just keeps chattering away. And that's really what you're listening to, which are just your opinions about what's being said. And that's not what's being said. So if that's how you listen here, you're going to miss perhaps the quality of what's being said here. Now, I want to, again, another caveat. I'm not saying that what we're saying is the right thing. What we're offering here is alternate perspectives and different ways of looking at things that most people have not inquired into or looked into or put into their being as a different way of operating in the world. Elon and I have a lot of expertise in this. So when we offer you something, we're basically saying like, hey, look, we have this cool new jacket. Why don't you put it on yourself, give it a shot, see if it feels good, see if you like the way it looks on you, walk around a little bit, strut your stuff, see how that goes. If it's good, Elon's doing the salsa dance again. If it's good.
This is my strut stuff, though.
Yeah, so. If it's good, then keep it. If it's not, you're free to put the jacket away. So essentially what I'm asking is, whatever room you're in, just imagine taking these opinions, putting them outside the door in like a bag and just keeping them there. I promise you, your opinions are not going far. They're not going far away. You can always get them back when you want to. However, if you want to get the most amount of value here, then that's how we invite you to listen, okay?
Don't take my opinions away. I want my opinions.
Yeah. With that said, we are certainly open for questions.
You said it. You said it. You just said it. With that said.
I know what that said.
I got to you.
I
Guy for the last like 4 months. He's like, stop with the with that said.
I say it a lot too. It's just like the way that likes get used. It's become a comma. I notice a lot of people saying it these days.
You know what? Yeah, a lot of people say it these days. You know what I have noticed? I was actually editing that's a cool bottle. I was editing the video from yesterday, the Facebook Live, the launch of the collective.
Yeah.
And I realized that you and I say a lot of likes.
We do say a lot of likes.
Yeah.
The whole planet says a lot of likes.
I was annoying myself.
I'm not making it right. It's just what's so.
Yeah. The thing is, I think we actually describe things. So metaphorically, we do say it's like this, like that. So we do use it, I think, sometimes, right? But it was a bit out of hand. I was like, stop it. Stop saying that. All right, questions?
So usually in times like these, what ends up happening is a whole lot of you guys are waiting for somebody else to be first. It's like when you're in a room and someone asks a question and you know the answer, but you just don't. So we just urge somebody to get the party started. We'll be really gentle, we promise. Okay, cool. Here we go.
Oh, we've got a couple. Oh, there we go. They were just on a delay.
On a little delay. So Marguerite, you got, how do you really feel a sad emotion without the story and guilt? The loss of my 2 dogs keeps coming with a story. Amazing. Can you elaborate a little bit on what's the actual story you're telling yourself about the dogs? What happened there? And bro, I'll let you kind of start with the emotional aspect of it.
How do you really feel sad emotion without the story, guilt, the loss of my 2 dogs? I'm going to give you like the only thing that's coming to me is literally the most Zen Buddhist answer. Allow the feeling to be there without adding the story. That's literally, but Marguerite wants to hear more. I know her.
I can.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, because I heard it, I'm reading it, and I'm like,
okay. So Marguerite's dealing with I should have, I could have, right? So that's kind of enough for me to at least take a swing at it. Certainly, my heart goes out to you on that one, just so you know. Like, I get the empathy. That's a deep loss. I went through something like that a few months ago. Awesome. And I think we can apply this to anything, right? Whether it's a loss of a parent or a loss of a job or a loss of anything, there's like a heartbreak that comes along with that. And the thing about heartbreak is heartbreak has the tendency to take us back to some really core wounding things. So like core wounding things usually for people is like abandonment, like it's like I don't want to call it the real feeling, but like there's a real feeling. I just want to use the word for emphasis, like the real feeling of being all alone. So there's like, aloneness could actually be really meditative. You know, when you're the Zen Buddhist master at the top of the mountain meditating, that's alone. And that's a high state, right? And then there's loneliness, which I think is what you're describing is now there's all these emotions behind it. Now that feeling of loneliness, maybe even abandonment or that like sick feeling to the stomach. So I would just pay attention, Marguerite, to where are the sensations for you right now? Like, is there a tightness in your stomach? Is there heaviness over your heart? Let's just start with that, okay? If there's tightness in your stomach, then there's something, fear, perhaps guilt, right? If there's a kind of a heaviness on your chest, that indicates a level of sadness. You probably a little bit of both. What ends up happening for most people in these situations, and I went through something like this all of last year, is suddenly you feel the thing that you've been trying to avoid most of your life. And it feels like that's not supposed to happen. So now we start reaching for the things and creating external situations to try to avoid that. In fact, most of our life is built around trying to avoid these things, right? Like, why do we get a job? We get a job because everyone tells you it makes you feel secure. Why do you want to feel secure? Because you don't want that fear that, that something could happen to you or whatever. Why do most people go find a partner, right? Because that feeling makes the feeling of being alone subside, but then they've never actually dealt with the part of themselves that just feels alone. So what we end up doing is we take these parts of ourselves and we like extricate them from our body right? And we say like, well, I want to be whole, perfect, and complete, but I don't want this thing because that's too painful to look at. I don't want this thing because that makes me angry. I don't want this thing because that makes me sad. And we start doing what Elon and I call spiritual bypassing, because every moment of your entire life is an opportunity to grow into your spirit, to get more in alignment with what your spirit code frequencies actually are. And when moments like these come up, you're so raw that it's like it's all out on the table. And that's your soul right there, right? Like the depth of pain that most people feel actually activates them a lot of times. Like we see this with terminally ill people all the time. We just start having massive breakthroughs about their life, people on their deathbeds, right? Like their soul is now is just bearing, and now like all the circumstances which stop them from looking at those things suddenly don't matter, because time no longer seems like you have forever, and you want to deal with everything now and be present as much as you possibly can. So my point here is that we avoid the feeling because we think that there's something wrong. The stories, right? I should have, I would have, I could have. When you go into deep states of meditation, so like a few years back, I sat in silence for 10 straight days. The premise for being in a state of meditation like that is releasing the mind of exactly what you're talking about, is the things that it resists and the things that it craves. And even if you go back to what I said about listening, that's what we're judging. What am I resisting right now? And what do I crave about this? What do I do want? Like, what is turning me on and what is turning me off, essentially, right? There's just constantly that chatter going on. So if you just relax into your body, right? Because you're probably like, there's probably tension and you're probably like all tightened up. So like take a deep breath into your heart, like into this area. And I'm tracking you a little bit so I can actually feel how much tightness is there. Like it's like you can't get a full breath of air in there. So if you just start breathing into this area a little bit, and even when you get off this broadcast, if you take 10 minutes and just start breathe, and instead of trying to figure out how to make this subside, I want to see if you can just relax that part and just put your awareness, right? You've been in some of our classes, you know what I'm talking about, not your attention, but your awareness right in this space. And every time that this sadness comes up that feels like it's not supposed to be there, I want you to actually invite it in and just tell it that it's perfect. Then the mind is going to come in. And the mind's going to say something like, we don't have time for this. Or it's going to try to manage it or meddle with it or become efficient with how to get rid of it. When those things come in, don't fight it either. This is where people, for me, I feel like make actually a mistake with meditation. They think that those parts of themselves are supposed to go away and not be there in meditation. No, when that happens, invite them in and tell them they're doing their perfect job too. Whatever starts coming up in the system, validate it. Keep telling it it's doing its perfect job, its perfect job, its perfect job. Now, here's the thing. I can't tell you what's going to happen. All I can tell you is if you want to start having the energy move through the body by trying to understand it more mentally, all it does is going to resist it and push that energy back into your body. And it's going to keep coming up like, and this might remind you of things from your childhood, like old wounds, pain, like other memories come in. Again, all reasons why we want to avoid it. We're like, wait, I told myself I'm not going to look at that anymore. I told myself I'm going to avoid that from now on. If you're willing to sit with it though, as the energy moves, you're now at the core, you're at the sensational level of where these memories are basically bearing themselves from. By the time you've had a thought, the sensation has moved from a sensation to an emotion, to language in our mind, right? To thoughts in our head, to words that we keep saying. And that's kind of the process. So the feeling is the root. And I don't mean the emotion, the sensation is the root. The emotion is the judgment the mind already had about the sensation. I'll say that one more time. The emotion is the judgment that the mind has had about the sensation. If you're willing to take on that the sadness in your heart as important as when people say, I have so much joy in my heart, it's that important. And that's what creates the sensation of wholeness, is not when we try to get rid of it, is when we bring it to the experience and we value it and validate it so much with so much love and so much gratitude that this thing right here is giving us a perfect feedback, then it starts moving. And you are getting the perfect feedback, love, right? Because your relationship with those dogs was so important to you. It shows you how much love was present. And that's something you can start being grateful for immediately. Is like this pain, what we call pain is just feedback from our environment. And my environment is telling me I really fucking love those dogs. Like I really love those dogs. And you can continue to love those dogs. Maybe not in a physical sense, but there's some way that you can honor them. Maybe you do like a some kind of ceremony for them where you just remember them weekly and think of like a really joyful memory they had with them and let that frequency enter your body and you just sit with it, right? And that kind of stuff really starts shifting the feeling around it. The fight is where it's unnecessary. So if there's something I can ask, you know, like if everything I'm pointing to, hopefully you're kind of seeing, is how do we get to make this easy? And easy doesn't mean that it's not going to last a month or two, a year or two. It doesn't mean that. There's no time limit on easy. However, every time this feeling comes up, if you're willing to be patient and graceful with yourself, you won't just heal what's happening with these dogs. You'll begin the process of healing all the things that are attached to that sensation, which is that early onset childhood stuff that happened that made you feel unsafe or alone or sad, or all those things that, again, we try to avoid for our entire life. And that's the cascading effect. And kind of like this could be the moment where the dominoes start dropping. I could tell you again from last year, I spent almost the entire year last year in absolute heartbreak, which led to me finding actually the most amazing, beautiful woman of my life. And it only entered my life, as you know, when I had a feeling of wholeness, of self-love, where I didn't need something out here to show me that I'm loved in this world. That came from within. The person then showed up to match that. And it's the first time I have a relationship in my life that I can honestly tell you that there's no responsibility on the other person to make each other happy. Like, Mandy is not responsible for my joy, no more than I'm responsible for hers. We're two people who consistently work on our self-love. How do I love myself more? How do I be more graceful with myself? How do I be more patient with myself? And as those frequencies come through, as these feelings come through, and we become more and more whole with our own systems, and then we come together, there's just joy in our relationship that's effortless and easy. So I hope that kind of gave you some insights.
So I got a couple other things, and it's really interesting because I already see a theme. You know, like every time we get on, I'm getting an echo, by the way, now. Mm-hmm. There was none before, but now there is.
Okay.
It's so funny how every time we collectively come together, there's this just theme that kind of rolls. So as soon as Nick posted the question, Tiffany says, you know, I'm dealing with the same thing. Then Patricio posted a question, and I'm like, oh, I kind of see the theme here. The theme today is attachment versus commitment. And it's really, really beautiful. So Marguerite, first of all, I just want to let you know that we love you. And we love you whether you're sad or happy or frustrated or upset, that we're here and we love you no matter what. Right? There's no way that you need to be or have to show up in order for you to receive that love from us. And I think Guy hit on some really, really key points. And the first one that I just want to reiterate is the story that you're telling yourself. We're always telling ourselves stories. Always. Your perception of reality is based on the stories that you are currently telling yourself. Now, there's certain stories that you're telling yourself in areas of life that are working for you, that you're experiencing effortlessly, that you're experiencing love, that you're experiencing freedom and joy and self-expression, are the areas of life where you're telling yourself stories that allow for that to be there. In areas of life that you feel down or frustrated or angry or upset or resentful or whatever, you're telling yourself a story in that area of life that is having you have that perception of life and create those emotions. So if you were to shift and create a new story around finding the gift of their passing, finding the gift of their life and your life intertwined, and start to tell yourself that story, then you'll quickly see that your emotional state will completely change and alter. And the other thing I just want to add is, you know, what I hear in the question, and I might be extrapolating this, but what I hear in the question is this notion that feeling sad is bad, that feeling sad is wrong, that I shouldn't feel bad, I shouldn't feel sad. And is that true? You know, is that true? So like Shia, my son, is incredibly sensitive. Bro, I don't know what just happened, but there was another.
I don't know either. It just knocked me off and then put me right back on.
That's really strange. Okay. So Shia, my son, is very, very sensitive. He's an empath for sure. And my dad surprised us and came here this week. And so yesterday night, my dad was leaving to go to just a friend's house or something. And my son broke down in tears. And at first I could see that he was like holding them back. You know, like I could see that he's super upset, and he was like, and I was like, Shia, what's going on? Like, why are you sad? Like, what's going on? What's going on? And then once he like let out that he's really upset that Saba, my dad, he calls him Saba in Hebrew, his grandfather, is leaving. Then I was like, immediately I was like, you know, I'm not one of those dads that's like, oh, that's stupid. Like, you don't need to cry about that. Like, he's going to come back. Like, why are you crying? In fact, I went the complete opposite way. I was like, oh, then let it out. Like, cry. I'm here for you. And then his sister came and was like rubbing his back and was like, Shia, it's okay. We're here. We're here. You know, like, I think we have this notion that feeling sad is bad. And because it's bad, now we want to remove that thing instead of allowing and accepting that sad is in my life. I love to cry. Like, I love to cry. I love to cry when I'm moved, you know, emotionally from like just being moved and inspired. I love to cry from being sad. I just love to cry. There's a release in it for me. I actually spoke to a new client of ours just today who said, I started crying because of you guys. Just listening to our podcast, he just started crying because of us. Like, you know, he's allowed himself to unlock certain things. So Marguerite, I would just offer you, like, it's not necessarily a feeling that you want to get rid of. So for my son, like, you know, when he's that sad, instead of being like, oh, this is a feeling, or like when we leave for a trip and they start crying or something like that, I'm like, how amazing is it that you're so emotionally overtaken right now that the fact that we're going to be apart from each other creates that, like, we love each other that much that when we're even thinking about being away from each other, we have this emotion. That's amazing. To me, like, that equates the deepest amount of love for someone. Right? Like, when you have that kind of, like, you don't cry if your friend leaves, you know, unless you really have an amazing relationship with your friend. Like, you cry when someone's super, super important to you. So even that, like, rewriting the story from the standpoint of like, wow, this sadness equals how much I love, and noticing that the feelings in the body will certainly shift into more of a love, appreciation, and gratitude, by the virtue of not resisting them, by the virtue of just allowing them to be there and appreciating the fact that you loved two souls, furry souls, that much that it creates that kind of missing inside of you. And like, I find that to be absolutely gorgeous, not something that we want to remove and get rid of.
Sure, and I think that kind of speaks to what ends up happening with exactly what Fatma wrote in there, like, boys don't cry, right? Like, with the best of intentions, a parent is going to tell a child, like, hey, it's okay, you don't have to cry. And it sends the signal down to the subconscious that it's not okay to express this when something like that is happening. When there's a sensation of hurt or longing or feeling in the body, then men hurt and long, and guess what? We're like, well, we can't cry, right? And that's how you get these kind of...
Or even worse, you know, like when a kid comes to you and they're upset and you're like, oh, it's okay, you don't need to cry, like, it's just this. Then in that moment, what you've basically done is invalidated their feeling system. Their feeling system had a reaction. That reaction was perfectly natural and beautiful and amazing. And the second you're like, there's no need to cry for this, or there's no blah, 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 then you've basically said, like, that system that showed you X is not valid. And you know, like, the kind of work that we do is to remind our system how to feel again. So it's like, why would we do that to kids And I know like as adults, we have so many programs that tell us like, this is good, this is bad, I shouldn't, I should, this makes me weak. This is like all these stories that we've told ourselves, you know, I just, the more you can love and honor every single experience. You know, I said a story a few times. I don't know if I said it here about like, I don't want to get into the whole story, but like I had this moment of just absolute rage. True, like full outrage. Like I haven't felt that enraged where I wanted to choke somebody in I don't even remember how long. And I loved that. I loved that I got to experience that. You know, did it highlight a whole bunch of things that I now get to look at and grow from and opportunity? Yes, absolutely. But I could have like beaten myself down and been so upset. Look, every reaction is perfect. And if you realize that your system is just trying to get yourself back to a state of well-being, like a state of somewhat homeostasis, right? So it's just trying to release this energy somehow. But when we make that energy release wrong, like there's something wrong with me, I shouldn't be responding this way, you've basically locked it in instead of allowing it to be there. So what if you could accept this? Just accept it. It's like, yep. I get to experience sadness. And I love that.
Yeah. And I think that's a great question. It's like, what is it like to validate every type of human experience? And I'll go back to what we were talking about before. It's like, how can you have an experience of wholeness and truly surrendering and loving yourself without every single thing that your body is able to feel and have the sensations you're allowed to have and the feelings that you're allowed to have and the thoughts that you're allowed to have? How can you ever feel whole if you make any part of it wrong?
Yes.
Guys, if your human brain can imagine it, there's some human being on the planet doing it. The creation, right, of what's right and what's wrong, certainly I'm not above it, right? Like I have been taught that certain things in life are right and certain things are wrong. And yet, when we look at it from a spiritual perspective, that's all made up. That's all ego, human mind, here are the rules. Now, certainly I'd like to live in a society where we abide by that it's not okay to kill people and stuff like that. But even murder from a spiritual sense, like how do you know what contract was signed at the soul level that those two people didn't actually sign up to have that exact experience? This physical body might not be aware of that, but there's a much deeper, what I call like a soul code, soul print, soul signature that's deeper than what our mind can grasp. Some people seem to have access to more of that. Some people have less, like any other gifts. It's either developed more, less, different. On the same thing, we had, I don't know if a full moon, you could think about it in a magical, mythical type way. There's certain eclipses all month long and planets in retrograde and all that stuff. You can validate all that stuff if you want to. Also, I live in a place where people validate that kind of stuff all the time and is a topic of conversation constantly. And you find yourself at the effect of it because you're in conversation for it more. My point is that at the end of the day, like we all are human, having human experience. 16 years of development for Elon and I, and he had an experience where he went into a fit of rage. Now, a guru, right, is going to be like, if you feel like you're a guru, then when that's happening, you're going to make yourself wrong. You're like, how did I get here? I have all this experience. And Elon and I did that for years too, because we're like, dude, we have all this education and still we get hooked. You know, yesterday we got on the webinar for the collective. We were having software issues and a few things that happened like right before the webinar. And I shit you not, I had a fireball of like anxiety enter my system. And it's like, you can't help that. No more than if you see like a beautiful woman or a man and you're just like getting really aroused by that. Help that. Show me how you help that, right? So it's like, I start feeling this thing in my body. If you actually watch the recording, I invite you to go watch the first few minutes of it. I'm actually freaking out a little bit because I was upset that we had put in 2, maybe 3 works like nonstop, and then we had this huge breakdown like right at the launch, and it just feels like it undermines the amount of effort that went into creating that whole thing, right? So I had that with me. I had carried it with me through the webinar, and I have this practice now that no matter what's going on in my life, it's more important for me to feel in alignment than to take the next action out of alignment. So what ended up happening is we got off that call and we had an immediate coaching call. Usually I'll give myself a gap of time to just like sit quietly and meditate and just feel into those sensations versus trying to go do the next thing to alleviate it. So I kind of went through waves with it yesterday where I was like into it, out of it, but I certainly didn't feel like myself, whatever I consider to be my aligned self, just wasn't there. Yeah, in my alignment, I wasn't there. So like even this morning, I woke up and I'm like, nope, still not quite there. Now here's the difference. In the past, I'd be trying to figure out what's wrong. Why is this happening? I thought I did all my things. I meditated yesterday. Guy told me to meditate. Why isn't this going away? You know, like all that kind of crap. And now I'm like, oh, it's interesting. Like there's some part of me that's still not feeling like it's being attended to. Right. And now that's it. I just get to be curious. Like, oh, I'm curious. It doesn't. And here's the thing. That curiosity enables me to still be in a joyous state while it's happening. Because I don't have it that anything is wrong. I'm just like, there's just something happening. In fact, this morning I woke up, I'm like, oh, this is exciting. And I'm sure for Elon too, like that stuff happens because you know what? Growth is kind of like this. Like it moves really slowly, then it pops. It moves kind of slowly and then it pops. And it doesn't pop until you hit one of these moments. So it's kind of just like growing. There's like all these like subtle things happening and then like there's resistance and then it pops. So like now this comes in, right? And there's like some resistance in my tissue. And I'm like, oh, this is really exciting. Like something big is coming into my awareness that I was not aware of before. That's really exciting for me. And that has nothing to do with the sensation in my body or my ability to honor it, feel it, be with it, adore it, put love into it, like all the different things, because I'm like, what a great opportunity to heal this frequency. It's amazing.
Yeah. I'll share something really personal, vulnerable with you guys. Cause like, I love Guy's point about, we're going through this with you. And the reason I personally believe our trainings are as impactful as they are is because they don't come from some smart lines that we read in a book. We're living this with you. We're on the same journey. Like the experiences, these are ways that we learn and put these things into practice, so when I go into rage and all that stuff. So this morning I did something which I have literally never done in my entire life with my kids. My kids are in camp right now and we get to leave the house at 8:40, 8:45 at the latest to get to camp on time. And today was pajama day and Aaliyah went upstairs and got herself all dressed and ready to go. And Shia, for the life of him, could not pick an outfit. So I went up to his room. I was like, hey, buddy, I'll help you. You probably want to wear a t-shirt. This is the only pajama t-shirt, pick shorts with it. And he just kept throwing stuff. He's like, no, I don't want to wear that. No, I don't want to wear that. I said, okay, go brush your teeth, think about it, come back, etc. No. So now he's sitting on the couch sulking. Okay. I was like, Shia, do you want my help? Yes. Okay. How can I help you? Pick out my clothes. Okay. So I start picking out. He's like, no, not those shorts, not those pants, not those shorts. I'm like, Shia, I'm trying to help you, but I can't help you. You're just saying no to everything. So at some point, this kind of like kept going. And I could see he's like really, really frustrated, but nothing that I'm doing in communicating with him is making any difference. And I was like, Shia, you have 5 minutes to get ready. If you're not ready in 5 minutes, I'm going to take Aaliyah to camp by herself. Now, in this kid's world, he's like, there's no fucking way my dad's going to do that, right? So sure enough, 5 minutes go by and I'm like, all right, you're not ready. I grab Aaliyah, I grab the bag, I go to the car and I start walking and this kid starts having an absolute conniption, like screaming, pulling on my shirt, blah, 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 like, and he's in his boxers. Hasn't done anything. This entire time hasn't done anything. So I turn on the car. Aaliyah gets in. I start pulling out of the drop. And he is like just shell-shocked. I mean, like absolutely shell-shocked. And part of me, like one of the things for me as a dad, and I know this is hard as a parent, is like when I say something, I honor that something, right? Because if you say something to anybody, even to yourself, like this is just such a great example, like even to yourself, you say, I'm going to do this, and then you don't do it and you weasel yourself out of it, your word now means less to yourself, to others, etc. So I have a strict policy, like what I say, I don't mince words. Like if that's what I said, that's what I do. So I start leaving the house and I see that he's really upset. And I ask Aaliyah, I'm like, Aaliyah, should we give him one more chance? And she's like, yeah, let's give him one more chance. So I go back into the house. I'm like, because now I know he's upset and he knows that I'm legit. So I'm like, Shia, I'm going to give you one more chance. How can I help you? And literally the same thing. It was like repeat and loop of the same thing. Like, no. I'm like, so just come here and pick what you want to wear so we can leave. No, you pick. I was like, but every time I pick, you just say no. So this is not going anywhere. So this is how you want it to go? He's like, no. I was like, okay, I'm leaving. And the same thing. No. And this time I actually left. I drove Aaliyah all the way to camp, left him home. Part of me was like super proud. Part of me was super upset. Like I had all this stuff happening inside of me. I come back from dropping off Aaliyah. He is fully ready, backpack on, shoes on, shorts on, in a great mood. It's like, you know what, Dad, Abba, I ended up going with these shorts. I know you picked them out for me. I wanted the silver ones, but I was walking with them and I looked down and it didn't really look good. So I went back and I put these on and he was like totally good. And so I asked my dad, I was like, did you do anything with him? Like, he's like, no, he did it all on his own. The point of the whole story is this, to Marguerite's point, right? Like staying in it, allowing someone to go through their own process is super important. He gained from that way more value than me getting upset, me kicking and screaming, throwing clothes on him, throwing him in the car, which, trust me, everything inside of me wanted to do. I was like, that's not going to be effective, not for me, not for him, not for anybody. I was like, if he's choosing right now to have this experience, and that experience is creating a choice of him staying on the couch, upset and sulking, that's his choice. He gets to honor that his choice comes with certain experiences. And I can just hold space for him to have that experience. So on the one hand, I walked out, I was like, man, this could be like amazing parenting moment or like the absolute worst. Like I created like the biggest trauma in him. And it worked so brilliantly. Like it was unbelievable. And yeah, like that, we all get to do that for ourselves too.
I think it's really beautiful. Look, as children are a representation of our mini-me's, right? And it's like we try to wrangle our mini-me's. We try to make them submit. We try to make them be what we want them to be. He went into pattern. Elon and I talk a lot about going into automatic survival patterns. He went into, for him right now, it's a strategy. But that strategy is quickly becoming a pattern. Okay? So like he knows that if I do this strategy, Dad usually responds in a certain way. But over time, Dad is not going to always be in the picture. But that strategy is going to play itself out automatically. So it's like something is going to kick in, he's going to have an upset, and that's how he's going to operate in life. Now it's going to show up like an adult way, whatever the fuck that means, but it's going to be like in an adult kind of way, and that's going to affect the rest of his life. When we get to honor that, like Elon said, and I love this whole conversation, it's brilliant. When we get to honor everything,
yes, nothing
becomes a strategy anymore. Nothing becomes patterned in anymore. You're fluid with life. Everything that's happening is just moving through. Like, you know, parents see temper tantrums and they lose their minds. If we were actually healthy adults, we would have temper tantrums, because a temper tantrum is what? It's like, it's getting all the energy out, right? You're something, like I said, I had that buildup of anxiety in my system, and there's a whole series of things that happen. If in that moment I was like, God damn it, and I would just start shaking and moving my body and screaming and doing all the things that felt necessary, guess what? At the end of that, I'll be like, whoop, I'm clear, I'm good. And there's plenty of practices like that on the planet that just, you know, have you shake. Because, by the way, animals all shake. And if you see an animal shaking in nature, it's because they're actually moving anxiety energy out of their body. If you've ever seen a deer, who's a very anxious animal, walking in the forest, you'll see it's constantly shaking its legs.
We just had a bunch of them walk over here.
Oh, cool.
All right. Awesome. So I want to get to Nick's question, and then we have a few others because this is really good. And then I think Laura Maria posted a great one about feelings, so we'll come back to that here in a bit. All right, so Nick, let me just read this out loud. I've been living with a roommate for a few years, and I feel it's time to let go. I'm stepping into my full artist and have been working on myself for the past year and a half. When we met, we unconsciously, love that you added that, agreed to keep each other from shining too much. I'm so light with myself now, and it no longer serves me to live with him. I love my location and really don't want to move, and want to take radical responsibility for this, feelings on this. And then he actually added, I asked, you know, like, what is the ultimate intention that you would have wanted? And he said to live in the apartment without him.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I love this question.
Yeah. Nick, I'm going to give you, look, the mind you guys get this, like, and put yourself in an experience like Nick, right? You wanted to have a conversation with someone, but you knew it was somehow gonna, impact them or upset them or whatever, and you weren't sure how to have it. And what do? We think about it. Then we think about it some more. Then we strategize. We're like, okay, what if I say this? And what if I do that? And you play like the what if game endlessly. You go to bed playing the what if game. You wake up playing the what if game. You do work playing the what if game. And do you ever actually have the conversation? No. Now, if you ever have the conversation, and I'm sure you've all had this experience, does any of the what ifs or any way that you phrased it or practiced it ever go to plan? No, because the second they react or the second they say something, it all goes out the window.
And that's what I was going to just add really quick. It's not just that you want to have the conversation, you're strategizing it. In the meantime, they keep doing the thing that's pissing you off, even though it's just about you. And in your mind, you're literally killing them off moment by moment, making them your enemy, a bigger enemy, a bigger enemy, a bigger enemy. So by the time you have the conversation, you're literally talking to an enemy.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So Nick, I'm going to give you an answer that's probably going to drive you nuts. And I'm telling you, this is like for all of you. This is keys to the castle. You get to be straight with people. And you get to take whatever they present to you. You not speaking your truth at this moment is a lie. Withholding from someone is a lie. Okay? So there's a couple of things. And I said attachment versus commitment. You have to get, are you attached to living in this apartment? Or are you committed to living with someone who will help you shine your light? Are you attached to, if I leave this apartment, I'll never find another apartment like this? Or are you committed to, I'm okay with letting go and allowing to come in whatever will come in, because what I'm committed to is my expansion. And whatever will show up, whether it's the person, the apartment, whatever, I trust fully that that will be the next best thing for me. Now, from that place of actually being committed to your highest self-expression, if that was your commitment, then you could simply have the conversation and be like, hey, listen, I know we moved into this apartment like a year and a half ago. It feels like to me like I would love to explore new roommates, things like that. How do you feel? Are you looking for something new? Are you looking to stay here? I just kind of want to see where you're at. You have no idea where he's at. For all you know, he might be absolutely miserable living with you and been looking for an out, right? Guy, for example, and this is not to like take a story from him, but like, Guy, Mandy got pregnant. So they live in a 3-bedroom. So the conversation was, okay, do we go and find a new place? Or do we like our place and convert our place to just our place and get rid of our roommates? Now, mind you, like getting rid of roommates, they've been living with roommates all this time. So there's a financial thing. These are people that they really, really liked. So there's also like, you're going to people who you really enjoyed living with and being like, listen.
Continue to like, by the way, not liked in past tense. We continue to like and love.
Yeah, like and love. It's like, it's not an easy conversation. I get that. There's a lot of stuff that comes up. But the bottom line, Nick and Tiffany, because I know Tiffany had a similar story, it's like, until you speak your truth and ask the question, you're just playing in make-believe land in your head. Now, the thing with this, in Nick and Tiffany, this is so important. Like, when you have that conversation, you can't be attached to the result being your roommate leaving. That can't be the way you go in. That's going into a conversation with an agenda.
And a defensive posture.
Yes. The whole thing is like, if you're truly committed, the whole thing came up, Nick, because what you're feeling is that as you're expanding and raising your frequency, you're no longer in alignment with this being. Now, there's a few different things that you can do, which I don't really want to get into, but there's this awesome book right here called Infinite Self by Stuart Wilde. He has an exercise in there, real simple. You just imagine the being, you put them in the palm of your hand, and you blow them away. So if anyone's like upsetting you or a thorn in your thigh, like do that meditation and you'll see like naturally people leave your life. With that being said, you really do get to have that conversation. That conversation is an opportunity for growth for you. Whatever resistance is coming up about having the conversation, whatever your methodologies and strategies about avoiding the conversation. None of those things are new. So, you're all about expansion and shining your light and raising your frequency. Guess what? This is that. I know, Nick, and I think it's the same Nick. I know you're in acting, right? Like, hey, buddy, having conversations with producers and managers and all this kind of stuff that make you feel uncomfortable, part of the business. This is practice. You get to enhance your human potential in all areas by just having this one conversation. And I promise you, as soon as you have this conversation, you'll feel amazing. And whatever is supposed to happen after that conversation, whether the perfect apartment shows up, he decides to leave, whatever happens, you get to be completely unattached to what it looks. You just start the conversation. You're muted.
There you go. And that kind of goes back to something we talked about before, is like, what's the most important thing to you? Is like living in your alignment or like the external circumstances. When you're in alignment, the external circumstances always shape themselves to your best and highest, period. Like, that's like a mic drop. So it's like right now, you're like, if you're mentally attached to the apartment, you're mentally attached to how he's supposed to respond, all those things, you walk in with those guns like in your belt. You're like, yeah, cowboy, like, I'm gonna keep this fucking here apartment, and you're gonna do all that stuff. And that's how they're not gonna even hear the words. They're gonna feel the energy that's behind your desires, and they're gonna respond to that. So if you could walk.
You froze. Pretty good. No, I'm not frozen. Just him. Okay. I don't know what he was going to say. I'm sure it was going to be amazing. He comes back. Hopefully he can add it. I'm going to move over to Patricio in the meantime. Because again, it really is in that same vein, Patricio. So I'll just read this out loud. Relationship advice needed. Life introduced me to a beautiful woman. It's been a long time since I had felt such strong feelings for someone. How would you approach a crush? It's like I can't stop thinking of her, and at the same time, I don't want to be too attached. Isn't it beautiful though? Like, you get to feel that, Patricio. Honor that. Like, how amazing does it feel to fall so head over heels for someone? That feel, look, guys, you want to attract certain things in your life, honor feelings. Patricio, when something in your body happens, love, like being swept up by love and all that, it feels so good. It makes everything around you taste better, look better, smell better, feel better, everything. Like, being in love it's the greatest gift of human being, okay? Now, here's the thing. Be committed to having that be your life's experience. In other words, stop in the moment when you're feeling like this and just reiterate to every cell of your body, this is how I get to feel all the time. This is my new truth. Cells, this is how I want to experience life from here on out. And actually feel it in every part of your body, from your toes all the way up to the hair on your head, right? Now, here's the thing. If you were committed to having that kind of experience of love, if for whatever reason it doesn't work out with this beautiful soul, then you now got to experience what your experience of love truly is in the world. And the next person, you'll experience even greater than that. And Guy can talk to that more than anyone else, because Guy had like crazy experiences with women, like back to back to back, that also is like elated, heartbreak, elated, even more heartbreak, and now Mandy shows up in his life. It's like, miraculous. Fuck no, it's not miraculous. Yeah. Like, he did the work and he did all this stuff. Now, Patricio, where you get stuck is, listen to this. I want this feeling with that person and only with that person. Now you've closed off every possibility from entering your life. That's attachment.
Yep.
Committed is I'm committed to feeling and experiencing love in this way in my life. I don't give a shit with who. Right? You want to experience that kind of love with me? Awesome. Let's do this. You don't? Okay, great. Someone else will show up. That's commitment. Attachment is, oh my God, I get to experience this and only with you and only you, but don't leave. Please don't leave, because if you leave, I'm never going to experience this again. And oh my God, they're never going to find somebody else. That's attachment. No one wants to be around someone who's attached. They become needy and everyone's like, no, thank you.
By the way, it's not that we call it neediness, like in the physical space, but your energy is like underneath, like a baby sucking from a nipple, like
yeah,
just taking. And the person literally feels de-energized when they're around you. By the way, guilty of doing this myself, guilty of having it done to me. I've had friends around me that do this. I've done this to friends, like, right? And that's what you want to check in on is like, if you're around a person, when you go home, you're like, oh my God, that was so great. And there's this part of you that's like, oh, what was that? You know, you want to tune in. You just want to tune into where the attachment is. And I kind of mentioned it before. It's like, to me, honoring a person that you're truly in love with is that they're not responsible for your happiness. It's a nice bonus. You elevate each other by your very presence, but like there's no attachment, there's no jealousy that's going on, because you honor each other so much that there's no concern of all that. We're all guilty of that. We've all done these things. Every single one of us, in pursuit of love and joy, has gambled everything. You know, has gambled our relationships, has gambled businesses, has put everything to the side. Love is like amnesia. Everything's important, and you're like, love, okay, that's all I care about now. Like, you know, so it's fucking amnesia, and then you forget. It's kind of cool though, because it's a little bit of a reset. You can find yourself newly in love. Like, wow, look how I show up for this human being, right? Oh, you could find yourself newly when you come out of it also, because it's a kind of like a reset to your psychology a little bit. And being so intimate with people, it does that. It's a really beautiful gift. Now, if the attachment is like Elon said, don't leave me, and you're so afraid because you're afraid of losing that feeling, that's, you know, you want to check in. Okay, these are patterns. Okay. Wow, look how sad I get.
Yeah.
Because you're not sad that they left. You're sad from like abandonment of that time that your parents left and weren't there for you. You were sad when you weren't seen by somebody. You were sad when your heart got broken, which is, by the way, not the first time you fell in love. Like, so your parents broke your heart at some point in time, right? Like that kind of heartbreak, that deep, deep shit. And when somebody else comes, you're like, oh, the solution to all my problems. Like, look how I feel. And then inevitably, though, they're human. And they're going to do the shit humans do. They're going to go into a pattern. They're going to create some upset. They're going to create some resistance. They're going to do all the fucking things that humans do to each other. Not on purpose, because we can't be doing anything to another person. It's all in our experience. Another person just highlights what's already happening inside. That's it. So the beautiful part is you get a mirror. You get this mirror that you can really like look at. Like a child, right? Like, children are the ultimate mirror for people. So there's an amazing opportunity. And that's the thing. Like, is this an opportunity? Is this attachment? You know, like, where's your energy? And by the way, it's all good. No matter where it is, even if you're in fucking head over heels attachment, please don't leave me. Honor it.
Yep.
If you're so in love and you're like, wow, this is amazing. I can love a person and I have no jealousy, no attachment to who they're talking to, what they're doing, how they show up. I can just be with them night and day. And I'm just as good. I don't need to like, honor it and learn from it, because the resistance teaches you shit. The resistance is just a pattern already happening, and then it happens again. And then there you go.
And Patricia, I'm just saying this to you and you specifically, because I do know you. Okay. I would offer you that one of the reasons that you're possibly attached is because this amazing woman showed up and that little boy inside isn't fully worthy of her and feels like, wow, I got this amazing being sent to me. She's incredible. And if she leaves, another one's not coming, right? Because like, I don't even deserve this one type of thing. And that's what has us get attached, is like that notion that this is the only one. And I got so lucky and she came. The truth of the matter is, all you're doing is you're experiencing love, yourself in a relationship with that other person. If that person is your person to live out your entire life, continuously learning and growing together, you will stay together forever. If not, then you will play out whatever your part together is in expanding your ability to become worthy of, learn about yourself, learn about love. You both will move on, find amazing people. And this pattern will continuously happen till you find that person. And for some people that takes, 20 years, some 30, some 40, some 50, some 60.
I got to tell you, this lifetime might not be about that at all.
Exactly.
It might not even be about finding that person.
Yeah.
At all.
Great point.
Right? Like none of us know. I want to, if everyone can indulge me here for a second, and I think this would help you. And so Patricio, I know I can't see you, and it doesn't matter. Just imagine that we can, that all of us on this call can see you right now. And this isn't to scare your system, but if you don't mind opening your system a little bit, just be mindful of like, maybe put your shoulders back, open your chest a little bit. And if everyone could just close their eyes. I can't see you anyway, so I don't know if you're doing it or not. But you're going to close your eyes, whether you know Patricio or not. I just want you to tune into Patricio, whatever that means to you. There's no wrong or right way to do what I'm saying. Just tune into Patricio and just see him. And Patricio, see if you can receive us just seeing you. We're present. There's nothing you need to do, no way you need to show up, no way you have to be. You just get to be seen just because you are. So we see you, brother. We just see you. You just get to be seen. When you start letting yourself have the experience of being seen, not for any particular reason, just because you choose that you're worthy of being seen, the woman who sees you will just appear. Without those questions.
Beautiful.
You'll just get it. I had to see myself before Mandy could see me.
I remember the very moment.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, we were in each other's ecosystem for about 6 months before we saw each other.
Like he's not like bullshitting. They were like physically in rooms together and had not connected.
Well, not even just that. We even after we connected, we were dating, and because this is really funny. I had a premonition that I was going to meet my wife by the time it was my birthday in September of last year. Like a very, very real and strong feeling in my body. And because when I met Mandy, it seemed too premature because I knew when. I was like, oh, this can't be her. So I kept telling her, I'm like, hey, by the way, I already know I'm going to meet my wife soon. So we can't get too serious because she's coming. Like that kind of stupidity blindness. I was also still working through Heartbreak at the time. And it was really beautiful though, right? Because like that seems so funny now, but at the time it was the perfect thing for us. It gave us space to be super patient, right? Because like in a situation like you're in, Patricio, what do you want to do? You want to keep seeing the person. You want to put your fucking meat hooks in there. You want to be like, give me that attachment. Like, please don't leave me, right? And her and I, because we're like, hey, look, you're cool. You're amazing. You'll make someone happy one day. You're just not my fucking person. We could say everything to each other. We supported each other through things that were really difficult as friends. Like a really close friends and more sometimes, right? And then it just let us be patient and tell each other things that oftentimes you feel shameful and you withhold because we're like, hey, there's nothing to lose with this person. 6 months later, we're like looking at each other. We're like, holy shit, you know? And it was just perfect for our experience. And you know what? The whole time I was looking for the movie thing. Bing, bang, boom. Like lock eyes and there's my wife. And it's funny because I actually had that experience many, many times before with other women where I was like, this is amazing. How incredible is this? And it fizzled out and died every single time. And I was sitting there going, how did I think that was the model for me? I tried that model over and over and over again. The universe literally kept saying, guy, this is not how it works for you. Right? But when I tuned into my alignment and I was just like, I'm so in alignment, I could share anything with this woman. Because that started coming from a real place of self-love, not of, I tell her what looks good. No, I told her everything. She told me everything. And every time we're just sitting there going, yeah, no problem. You can tell me everything. And that was the perfect experience for us. And honestly, like when I realized it, because I noticed that I was looking for that pop and I was addicted to finding that pop. And then I was like, wait, well, I have had that pop. And I was sitting there with Mandy and I was like, what does this feel like? And I thought to myself, this feels like an old glove. You know, when you put your hand into an old glove, like every little inch of it is so known for you. And I was like, that's how Mandy feels. And I thought to myself, how is it that I'm not excited about that? And that was the moment it all changed for me. Like, just like that, on the spot. I was like, holy shit, that's her. Just like that. If you want me to repeat what I said, I have no idea at what point that was. I don't know what you want me to repeat.
No, I think what he meant is like, you know, he was pointing to Patricio that when you are able to see yourself, and be seen just as you are, like with nothing else to do, nothing else to fix, nothing, whatever, then others will be able to see you.
Yeah. So all self-love.
Yeah, all self-love. All right, so Razvan and Laura Maria had a very similar question. So I'm going to read both of your questions, and then we'll kind of answer them together. So funny. I love how this stuff works. It's just amazing. All right. So Razvan, right, guys, what do you think about emotion blockages? I cannot feel a lot of stuff my wife and or my friends are feeling. How can I start working on it? Okay. Then Laura Maria says, when it comes to feelings, I don't know why I feel like I can't trust them, for a lack of a better word. I don't like the idea of being at their mercy and not knowing their source. I'm not saying I don't follow my inner voice. Problem is, it contradicts itself sometimes, many times. Most of the troubles I had in my life, present included, came from feelings, and what got me out of them was logic, analysis. I continue to follow that inner voice while knowing it might change, even 180, because I just cannot follow it. It's incredibly hard for me to do something if I don't feel it. I just do it while keeping a certain attachment to it, fearing I can't rely on it. So I rely on my adaptability. How can I get rid of this restlessness and feeling that ultimately I can't rely on anything because there's always something out of control which can appear and screw up, well, everything. You got that? You want to go first? You want me to?
I can go. Yeah.
Go for it.
So I want to challenge you a little bit on something, or at least make an assertion. And again, it's not to say that this is true because I don't know you well enough and I don't know your story well enough. I want you to at least consider that what you're calling emotions aren't.
Mm-hmm.
That you're, if it's flip-flopping the way that you described it, like you can have one and suddenly goes 180 degrees, that indicates to me that it's of the mind, not of the body.
That's just to give you a distinction. There's a difference between emotions and feelings.
I would even say deeper. There's a difference between emotions and sensations.
Yes.
So to me, it's like there's sensations in the body, like a contraction or a warm feeling, a cold feeling. It might even feel moist at times. Like there's just sensations in the body. But notice even that, those are all my mind judgments. Oh, it's warm. Oh, it's wet. Oh, it's cold. That's already mental chatter. And the mental chatter can change based on its perception and its observational ground. So if I'm here, I observe it one way. If I'm here, I observe it a different way. Right? Love is an elevated state. You observe things completely different from here than when you're here and you fucking hate everything. Same thing, completely different perception. Right? All mental chatter, and then you go flip flop, flip flop. I love, I hate, I love, I hate. So for you, it might be like, well, today I feel good. Then, wow, look at that. I got the clarity. Oh, today I don't feel good. No, I don't got the clarity. Right? So and the conversation changes. Sensations in the body, like alignment of what your body says, yeah, that's for me, doesn't change very much. It's like, this is for me. When it's not for me, I know it's not for me. So we could define it as, and I don't like defining because it's like what feels good, what doesn't feel good, is that the simplest way of saying how to follow your inner compass. So if I'm like in a crowd of people at some event and I walk in there and my body's like, whoa, no, not my alignment. There's something going on in the field over there that my body's telling me you're not supposed to be here right now, period. I get the fuck out of there. That takes courage. You can rationalize your way into it, be like, you're being silly. These are just people. But my system's like, get out. You know, like there's anxiety in the system. I tune into the system. I follow it. So for us, I'll just tell you, and then, bro, you'll backtrack for me in a question because I'm sure I'll lose the thread here if I go down this path, is like our business relationships today, our personal relationships, what we do with ourselves, conversations that we have, where we travel to, who we get to talk to, nothing has any rationale to it at all. We've trained, and I'm not saying that we're like masters of doing this, but at a somewhat more advanced level than most, we've trained ourselves to not use rationale to guide our lives. We did an experiment. We said, what happens when we don't use logic to make any decisions at all? So if you've been on these webinars before, you may have heard me say this. I traveled the world the last 2 years with that. I never planned a single place I went to. People invite me places, have flown me first class. I've gotten to see some of the most unique things, hang out with the most unique people, and none of it came with any plan whatsoever. When I was very logic-minded, and I was for a very, 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 very long time, experiences like that just wouldn't enter my field because I was constantly trying to figure out how to make things happen, as if I had some say and control in the way that life and the universe unfolds. So I think it's important to notice this, guys, like, and this isn't to make us invalidate our importance, because we might be very important creatures in a spiritual sense. In fact, the whole universe, I think all of life is, of the same sanctity. And from what we know about the universe, it took 13.8 billion years for our universe to evolve and develop to the way that it has today, which means it's taken our planet this long to get here, which means it's taken this long for me to have this communication with you at this exact moment, in this exact second, 13.8 billion years for this thing to happen right now in this moment. And I want you to get that all of that happened in perfect harmony, synchronicity, and order without a single thought from you. What we call, just so you guys get some perspective, what we call a body is really just light waves. Our eyes just happen to decipher these light waves into physical form. And then because we have these 5 senses, when we touch our hands, it seems as if it's solid, but these are just machines perceiving light waves. You're not a solid being, and you are part of a whole. And part of tuning in and leaving the mind behind is not to become dumb. It's actually to tap into a greater intelligence that needs not be told what to do, that has no control. When you do a lot of plant medicine work, these are the great lessons of these amazing tools, is that it teaches you how to surrender into the greater field. There's people that I know that do this at a high level, and they literally pluck information as if out of the air that their mental minds could not possibly know. The language changes, everything about the human changes when they do it. We call it, some of these people call them channels or different things like that. So my point here is I'm kind of giving you a roundabout because I just want to like give you a little room to play with more than try to convince you of something. Is that most likely you're heavily operating out of your left mind, and you've gotten it to a point that you're actually convincing yourself that your right mind, heart operating, and that there's probably very little connection to the heart. So like for us, it's not like, hey, fuck the mind, great the heart. Like the mind is an amazing tool. It's an amazing tool when it's assisting what the heart is desiring, because this is the core of you. This is the source. This is where the things come from. Love holds together the universe. It's beating out of here. This, as far as we can understand it, Elon and I, and our understanding, it's supposed to facilitate the manifestation of the heart. It's not supposed to lead and leave the heart behind. So it's not the mind or the heart, it's the heart-mind connection. Most people are so out of tune with their bodies, and that's why feelings overcome them. Because by the time the mind becomes aware of a feeling, it's been festering in the body for a long time. And then it comes up literally through your heart, and the heart either allows that energy through or it doesn't, and it pushes it back down. This is like a chamber. It's like a bridge between these two systems, between what's happening here down here and what's happening up here. And it either opens or closes. Most people are walking around with a closed heart. There's no embodiment whatsoever. They're completely disconnected from what's happening over here. And this is the great challenge, I think, like spiritually speaking and philosophically speaking, of our time, is that we've become so disconnected. We have a left brain world, a patriarchal world, a masculine energy world, and it's completely disharmonized. So I just want to open it with that, and bro, I'll let you pick up from there.
Yeah, so I just took a few notes as the guy was talking. So Razvan, a couple things for you. One of the biggest things that's holding you back is comparison. So you mentioned, my wife and other friends and things like that, they feel more than me. Now, the second you make that judgment, you've just qualified something. And in that qualification is, I don't feel. I don't feel like they feel. They feel more than me. And all of that is programming into your system exactly that. Mm-hmm. I don't feel.
There's a right and a wrong way to feel.
Right? You even said, I only feel in extreme conditions. Guys, that's the program. You guys get that? Now, that's your story, Razvan. That's like what you are literally putting into this program. Just like I said to Patricio, right? Like when you feel that every cell in your body is like electrocuted with love, like this is how I get to feel all the time. You just did the opposite. I don't get to feel all the time. I only get to feel in extreme conditions. And then you look at everybody else like, why can they feel, but I can't? Why can they feel, but I can't? That's so you almost have, and by the way, it's totally normal. Mm-hmm. Right? Your upbringing, I'm sure, programmed all of these things in. So now where other people have access to this system, think of the system like a muscle. There's like two operating systems, like two muscles in the body, right? There's the logic mind muscle, and I'm sure your logic mind is brilliant and super analytical, and you're incredibly smart. The other part, and because this works so well, you've had no real reason to use the other system.
Mm-hmm. Because it's successful in this world. Yeah, it's a successful strategy to an extent.
And notice what this does. Oh, you don't need to feel. So what does it do? Oh, they feel. You don't feel like they feel. You only feel when it's extreme situations. Right? Look, he just said, you're right, very analytical. I don't know him from a hole in the wall. We've never spoken. So what's happened is, Razvan, first of all, you just get to love and accept that your system feels differently.
It doesn't look the way that other people look.
Yeah. And think about like, whether you're a righty or a lefty, right? Like whatever your dominant hand is. If I was like, hey, do this thing with your dominant hand, you would do it super easily. Writing, for example. If I was like, hey, write with your boom, boom, boom. If I was like, hey, write with your opposite hand, you would feel so awkward. Everything would just be like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I want you to think about it that way, okay? That it's not that there's something wrong with you or it's just that the muscle has been in atrophy for a long, long time. You're just by the virtue of you asking this question, I can already tell that what you're up to and what you are desiring in the world, and the reason that you probably called us into your life, which I don't believe in any accidents, is because you are looking to feel more. You are looking to bring that muscle out of atrophy and see what kind of access this gives you and to what world it gives you access to. So that's what I would offer you, is that you just get to play and be in love with that. You now get to explore this new muscle. And the beauty is the more that you now start to anything that you feel a tingling in the body, you feel a tingling in your hands, your hair stands up, anything, and you feel that, you honor that. Be like, ooh, I really like that. I just felt that. Mm-hmm. Thank you. And that will create more and more and more and more sensations. Look, I just started the process of like tuning in and actually feeling these sensations in my body not even a year ago. This is like a 6-month-old roughly practice, right? I can tell you in 6 months where I am today in comparison to where I started is night and day. And I'm still just scratching the surface. I had to give up a lot of stories about, this is not how I am. Am I making this stuff up? Is this real? All of that, because all of that is in the way of you actually experiencing that new system.
Yep.
So I hope that helps.
And I want to.
Laura Maria.
Oops, sorry.
I agree with everything you said. Thank you for reminding me of all this. Yes, I wrote down that I think you've convinced yourself, like Guy said, but ultimately I believe you're listening to the wrong voice. We've all had this experience, okay, where you've been approached with something, an opportunity, a chance to move, a chance to work with someone or in some place, whatever. and you had this overwhelming vibration, something in the system, and it almost felt like a magnet was pulling you towards something, okay? And we've also had the opposite effect where we've been in a situation, whether with a person or a circumstance or something, and it literally felt like your entire system was pushing you away from that thing. And you couldn't quite understand, because the logical brain doesn't function with that. You couldn't quite understand what was happening, but you knew damn well that you're not supposed to be in that room or with that person, right? That system is infallible. That system does not change its mind. It does not flip-flop. It's the first method of communication. It's the thing that, like, it's the reason that you put on an outfit sometimes and you take it off and you're like, no, I don't feel like wearing this. And if I asked you, why did you take that off? It looked perfectly well. You're like, no, I can't wear that today. It's this sense. It needs no explanation. It needs no logic. It needs no words. That's what we mean. Like, that's what Guy and I have tuned in to drive us. Now, right after that moment, and I'm going to take this in the positive, right after the moment that this pulls you towards something, immediately, within nanoseconds, this steps in. Because what this wants, this has no desire of wanting. This wants love. This wants growth. This wants passion. This wants purpose. This doesn't give a shit about any of that. This wants you to survive. For this, comfort, normalcy, same, all great. That's what it wants. It doesn't give a shit about your health, your life, your love, your nothing. So now every time this goes like, ooh, let's go do that, it goes, no, we can't do that. That's terrible. That's a terrible idea. So just understanding that the initial thing that you feel, that sensation, that pulling towards, really, really simple, right? Like something's pulling you towards something, feeling maybe like home, vibration, something, right? The second that happens, you get to honor that, knowing full well that this thing is about to go haywire. This thing is about to spit out you all the reasons why you can't. Time, money, you're too stupid, you're too young, you're too old, you're too fat, you're too skinny, you're too weak, all the things that it yells at you, right? That's the thing that flip-flops. And the reason it flip-flops is because it's constantly trying to find ways to get you to stop moving in that direction. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, push that other program. Let's see if that one works this time. And then there's this one or maybe two, that is like the emergency red button on your board that every time it presses it, it's like, well, we know it's an emergency situation. We're just going to push that button. We know what they're going to do. And it pushes that button, and like Pavlov's dogs, right? It's like you run in the other direction. That's just what happens. Now, understanding these facets of ourselves, understanding what these triggers are, understanding all these things allows you to disassociate from them so that the flip-flopping no longer really happens. It's just there. You're just witnessing it, but you fully honor the first thing that led you into that moment. And that's what we're talking about. So, Laura Maria, if we get to work together, I would offer that would be an amazing place, and you, Razvan, too, about just unlocking that true guidance system. Razvan, for you, for example, like all of that emotion ties into intuition, ties into manifestation, creation, allowing, right? That feminine energy that you have no access to or very, very limited access to at this moment. Living in that place where you can get in harmony and balance between the masculine and the feminine, having the feminine create the inspired action, having the masculine deliver on the inspired action. Dude, when you get that in harmony and working for you, it is so effortless and easy. We're constantly like, as men, especially analytical men or analytical people, what should I do next? What should I do next? To-do list, this and that. And you end up doing 10 things. 9 of them are spinning you in the opposite direction of where you even need to be going. Then you're backtracking, trying to figure shit out, doing this, doing that, blah, blah, blah. Guy and I don't do that anymore. At all. We sit. We get inspired thought. We sit quietly. We receive inspired action to take. And we take the one action, and that one action that we take creates 10 times the results that 10 of yours take. Because there's no wasted effort. There's no, I got lost in this and I took a 180 and it doesn't happen at all. So look, if you guys are up to starting to play that, now you just want to make me cry. But it's not. Look, there's nothing to beat yourself up over. And Laura Maria, I just want you to notice right now that thing that's making you cry. That right there. That's one of the big buttons.
So important.
That feeling right now. Go there, feel that, allow that to be there, and see why. What is the thing that just got triggered? Right? It's something like, and I'm just shooting here in the dark. Like I really want you to feel, but like it's something like the little girl inside is upset. Either she let you down, or she's not good enough, or somewhere in that there's some sort of phrase and something like if you really tuned in that you'd actually feel. And I promise you that thing right there is the bottle cap on so much goodness for you. And like if you got that and were able to remove that, oh man, the joy and love.
Sorry, brother. I want to remind you guys that every time a sensation happens in the system and you bypass it, that's what we call spiritual bypassing. If you don't observe it, you don't be with it, and then you go out there and you do some action to try to relieve that sensation in the body, what you're essentially saying to your brain is, I am not worthy of having this experience. I'm not worthy of having this experience. Think how many times a day you feel something and then you're like, no, and you avoid it. You might even notice that you've been doing this because it really does happen underneath consciousness. And every time your conscious brain sends out here, not now, not worthy of that now, don't have that experience right now. Now, if you've been doing that 20 or 30, 40, 50, 60 years, what is your system programmed to? I'm worthy of everything, experiencing love, joy, wealth, health, and all these amazing things in my life. Or every time something comes to you, you're like, I'm not worthy of it. That's why love scares the shit out of people, by the way. They can't experience their own love themselves. Then love appears. They go, fuck, I'm not worthy of that. And it just becomes attachment. It doesn't become love. So just that's, for me, one of the main things that set me on this path was like, holy shit, I really got that. I was like, wow, I am literally constantly programming in a lack of worth. And if you, and you guys all know this, we have this funny thing, humans, we want attention. We want to be seen, like what we did for Patricio. That's why I did that. Every human wants to be seen for who we are and what we're not and everything that we are and all the bad things that we've done. We just want to be seen and held in love. Bottom line, right there. So part of that experience is starting to create that in here. And you guys, again, know this because every time somebody compliments you and they just tell you, oh my God, Laura Marie, you're so beautiful. Like, I just enjoy spending time with you. There's that part of you that kind of like wants to smile, but then you've been told to be humble. So you keep a stern face and you don't let the side of your lips even come up to enjoy it. And then you shrink around the compliment and you think to yourself something along the lines of, if you really knew who I was, you would never say that to me. And you don't receive the energy. You literally close your heart. You go, fuck you, not now. And this is the condition of the human race, a lack of self-worth. So a lot of what we work, like these days, it's so funny. It doesn't matter where anybody comes to me. I'm like, yeah, you want to be abundant? Oh yeah, you got love yourself more, self-love. You want health? Self-love. You want the relationship of your dreams? Self-love. Here's the funny part though. If we called our program self-love, nobody fucking shows up. It's that not on people's radar. When we come here and people ask, hey, what's the thing you want to get? 9 out of 10 times, we have 70% of people want business and finances. Self-love. Okay, great. They're like, what? Self-love. And they don't, they just don't get it. So with that said, guys, we're coming up here. So we want to just tell you, like people like Laura Marie, Razvan, anybody else who's on here who's been listening, participating or not, because I know some of you guys just come on here and you're dealing with whatever you're dealing with. You don't feel like you can express yourself. You have a very real opportunity to come work with us. Now, we try to test where we try to do this for little to no money, but the problem is with just about everything that we do, and this is just a human condition right now, people pay to pay attention. So what we have is we have a series of programs at Satori Prime, from digital programs you could do at home, to personal programs that you work directly with us, to ones you work with our coaches, to ones that you literally get our time one-on-one at every level. This introduction here.
Bro. Okay. Real quick, let me, because I just want to complete. I think what he was going to say is,
I'm here.
Oh,
yeah, I don't know why that keeps happening. Like, my internet's fine. It just keeps popping me off for some reason.
Yeah.
So I think where I left off was, if you guys want to take a look at what we have going on here, our intention is that this program introduces you to what we call our 100-day masterclass, access to freedom. Because a lot of what you guys are talking about is a lack of freedom. There's no space in your life. You feel very constrained. This program is designed to give you that freedom, to start unlocking your mind and your heart. And the way that we do that is by teaching you the phenomenology and ontological ways that your brain works. And what that means is, what we teach you, you actually have put no effort. Marguerite is on here if she wants to chime in. A few other people have been in these programs, feel free to say something about it. It's really about helping you start to discern and see the things that are unseen by other people. So you realize how many choices you really do have about who you are and how you respond to the things that are going on in your life, to get out of the automation and get into presence. So the way that we do that is we go through a qualification process with our application. It's $100 to apply to our programs, okay? Our program, this 100-day masterclass that most of you guys are probably going to end up in, because that's how we design it, is between $2,000 and $3,000. Now, even if that seems too expensive for you, or you want a different level of coaching from us, still take the application, because Elon's going to send you a private message and have a conversation with you about what's appropriate for you based on what your application says. So if that means, you know, one of our digital programs is more impactful for you, or some other program that we have, that's what we'll tell you to do. We're not going to tell you to be into a program that you're not ready for. Okay. So
yeah. By the way,
please.
We have programs ranging anywhere from $47 to $10,000. So the application is simply you saying, hey, I'm investing in myself. I'm committed to investing in myself. I'm committed to unlocking my human potential. I'm committed to doing this work. Okay. Once I receive those answers, we will figure out what's what. And if you choose at the end of what we discussed that you don't want to move forward, you found something else, I don't really care, we will fully refund your application fee. And if you decide to move forward, we'll just credit that $100 to whatever it is you're using. So for example, like we launched a Satori Prime Collective for $97 a month, right? Like $99 a month. That $100 would go and you'd have access to the first month. So it's a no-brainer. And Laura Marie, I just wanted to say thank you because that's an awesome comment.
I can't see what she say.
Oh, she wrote, okay, it's clear. You guys are masters of blowing people away.
We should take that one down and put that somewhere. Yeah, guys. So, you know, look, bottom line is there's no pressure. We don't want anybody moving forward with anything that we do unless what we say really connects with you and you're like, damn, these guys can really teach me a thing or two. There is, Elon and I always have a mentor in our life, constantly, because we're looking to grow and expand. And there's people that have mastery in areas of life that Elon and I know nothing about, including the realm of feeling and things like that, all things that we've been trained in. Mentorship is a way of getting you to a destination with velocity. That's how I look at mentorship. You can take the long road or you can take the guided route. I'd rather climb Mount Everest with Sherpas than try to figure out how to get to the top by myself. That's basically what it comes down to. So our application process, again, is the best way to do that. Like Elon said, you really have nothing to lose, even if you just want to see what you would qualify for. But at the end, you feel like our programs are not for you, we'll just send you your money back. We have no issue doing that.
By the way, I read all the applications personally. We get to communicate personally.
Yeah. So satoriprime.com/masterclass. Again, $100 for the application. And if you have any questions at all about our programs, about anything we talked about here, Elon and I actually make ourselves very available. You can contact us at elon@satoriprime.com. That's ILAN. I'll put it in the box. Yeah, Elon's better because he's gonna grab the applications anyway. But certainly you can email me too if you feel more comfortable for some reason, guy@satoriprime.com. Okay? And guys, we're always here. And we invite you to just be in our ethos, be part of what we're doing here, be part of our growing community of Satorians. We have tons of resources for you guys to go through every single week. And yeah, if you feel so inclined, then please come work with us.
Oh, thank you, Marguerite.
Thank you, love. Yeah, she said everything in my life is shifting to my highest good at such amazing ways. I literally have no words for how I feel. Love yourself enough to join Satori Prime. That's amazing. Thank you, sweetheart.
I love that.
So we'll wrap it up with this. If you guys are still mulling it over, or you want to drop another question, I'll play you guys a quick video. It's a trailer from one of our live trainings that we did, and when that's over, we'll call it a wrap. So. Humans are funny creatures. They believe that, well, I don't know if they believe this, but we're constantly like looking to be acknowledged for something. We want to know that our existence matters, right? And we do this from a very young age with our parents. So we do all this stuff to get attention. Now we're really funny because then we do get attention. We get acknowledged. Someone compliments you. How does it feel when somebody compliments you? You're like, oh my God, I'm so great. Or you're like, right? Like you can't handle it.
I want you to see their greatness. I want you to see their joy, their love, their commitment to humanity. I want you to see all of it.
I just want you guys to hear this, that you're 37.2 trillion plus unique cells. If you so having these beliefs of like, I'm not good enough, and where did this come from, and these thoughts and these ideas. So I want you guys to imagine for a minute, knowing you're 37.2 trillion plus unique cells.
And that there's like this cloud that's been over me where I can't even see clearly.
And just, I can't explain. Nonetheless, I've never been able to shake this feeling.
I'm having trouble really stepping up in my life, like really being true to myself.
And then what happened, because like about a minute, I don't know how long, because time ceases to exist in these exercises, but somewhere in that thing, I just felt something shift.
I just want to again ask you the question: if you're being unstoppable, then how are you being? How else are you being?
Positive.
Yes.
Happy.
Yes.
Can I offer you?
Sure.
Peaceful.
Yes.
So anxiety is threatening because it causes people to lose control of their emotions and consciousness, as if hijacking the mind.
You have a unique opportunity to take this plunge into unknown. Rediscover what is inside of you and make a commitment that probably, definitely will change your life.
What I want to share with you guys the truth, the very first thing that ever happened to you is you were created perfectly by your creator. Right? Your creator created you perfectly for your perfect experience. Because no one, again, you're so unique. No one can be you.
So I'm here in the hopes that something can change this.
All I could do was pray for that and pray that he would never do that thing again.
What happened? What happened in my life that caused this? It caused me to feel like I'm not good enough.
This is when we worry about things that are coming in the future. Have you ever noticed that sometimes the fear of the upcoming thing is actually worse than the thing itself?
True transformation is where you move from one way of being to another, and the way that you were being before is no more right or no more wrong than the way you are now. Because if you go to convergence, what you end up doing is just making it an ego trip. So now you judge everything by that transformation, and that becomes, is this right, is this wrong, do I agree, do I disagree?
You're talking about thinking, right? Most of the time you get inspired, and then you sit back and you think about thinking. You think about the action. And to the brain, that's draining, horribly draining. Because when you restrict your actions to your thoughts, you actually strain your brain. Action is the orgasm of imagination. You should have put that up on a banner.
If we ask our brain, we know nothing. If we ask our heart, we know everything.
All right, guys, that video gets me every single time. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. We love you. Have a great day.